Howdy there, folks. I just did something pretty cool. I just went ahead and I calculated my top 7 stock market investments in the stock market right now. These are my 7 biggest investments in the entire market. These are the ones I have the most money in. I'm going to disclose those in order for you guys and why I'm pretty darn excited about these 7 investments. For you to be in my top 7, I have to believe in that stock immensely, right? Now, you're going to notice some things as we go through these 7 stocks. Some of these companies are profitable companies. Some of these companies aren't profitable companies. Some of these companies' revenue growth is kind of lame, let's call it that. Some of these companies have extremely rapid revenue growth. So you're going to find a little bit of a mixed bag in these different stocks. And that's kind of the way I like to invest. I like to, go for some of those that's more of a valuation play and it's trading at a really cheap price to sales ratio, really cheap forward P, things like that. And then other times I'm going for, let's call the big gains in companies that I think are game changers, not just over the next year or two, but really game changers over the next 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, so on and so forth. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy this as always. And let me know if you own any of these stocks. I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section as always. Do you like any of these stocks? Do you not like them? I don't get offended. I own a lot of stocks that are definitely usually heavily shorted. And I usually, I'm not one to shy away from stocks that are hated stocks that people might make fun of or things like that. And that's perfectly fine for me. All that matters at the end of the day is the money and making the money in the stock market, right? And so that's where I place my chips. Alrighty, guys, let's get these 7 stocks up here. By the way, if you want to take advantage of my 15-part stock picking checklist, check out pinned comment down there. First one up here. So my 7th biggest investment in the stock market. This is I was actually surprised to see this was my 7th biggest investment, but it's actually Avant Brands. Avant Brands, so a extremely small market cap. This is my 7th biggest investment. And for a lot of folks, they couldn't have a stock like this be their 7th biggest investment. For me, I'm not too worried, and I sleep pretty darn well holding this stock at night being my 7th biggest investment. So first off, Avant Brands right now has a market cap under $40 million on this company. One of the reasons I love this one, by the way, it's a Jack Jackson player, all right? Not a retail play, more of a wholesale play. And one of the reasons I love this company is Norton, the CEO. I think he's got his head on straight, and I think he's a perfect person to be leading a company like this. And this is kind of like a situation where I'm not just betting on the horse, I'm also betting on the jockey in this particular stock. And I believe this is the type of guy that who's going to build this company into a 9-figure company, like a multi-$100 million market cap over the coming years. And he's one that I looked at kind of, the track record of him in growing this company over time, and I've been nothing but very, very impressed. And so I've actually bought quite a few shares in this company now to be my 7th biggest investment. They had 25% revenue growth this past year. And 22 is going to be a massive year for them. They did not guide for specific numbers. They did say they're going to have significant growth in 2022 in revenues. I believe that as well, based upon their 3PL facility, ramping. I think that's going to be huge for this company in terms of how much they can increase their production. Also, there's a company that's in a great capital position where there's going to be some players that definitely go under over the next couple of years, or there's going to be consolidation in this space, essentially. They're in a great capital position. You look at their cash balance versus their market cap, and it's almost laughable. And so this is one I'm a full believer in, obviously, to be my 7th biggest investment. It's definitely not the stock for everybody out there. Let's put it that way. When you're talking about that type of market cap, a $40 million market cap, not the stock for everybody. But I'm a full believer in it, and that's why it's my 7th biggest investment. And I could definitely buy some more shares this one, but it's a limited amount of shares I can buy in this company because of how small the market cap is. Is it the type of stock that it could be my top 5 position? The only way I could ever see it being a top 5 position for me is if the stock price went beast mode. And next thing you know, this is an $80 million market cap, $120 million market cap, $160 million market cap, and they tear their numbers up over the coming years. That's the only way I can see this being a top 5 position. You can get in my top 10 and be a small market cap by me buying in, but you can't get in my top 5 unless your stock price goes beast mode. And at the end of the day, if this stock doubles up, triples up, next thing you know, it could be a top 5 position. I think all it would take would be for this stock to probably triple up and it'd be a top 5. So that is some food for thought there. I definitely love Avant Brands. Number 6 here is SDC SmileDirectClub. So this is an interesting one, and I think this is probably my most controversial stock. I think this is actually more controversial than Avant Brands. SDC a lot of people look at it and they're like, okay, revenue is supposed to go down next year. If you know me, I love companies that have, significant revenue growth. Look at Avant Brands and look at basically all these other companies that are on this list. So for me to invest in a company here recently, and this is a pretty new investment for me to invest in a company, that's been trading at $2 something a share, right? That is expected to have revenue go down in 22. You might say that seems strange. Well, when it comes to me with SDC, I actually love that their revenue is going to go down in 22. And the reason being is they basically cut off a lot of their international business. They were losing money like it's nobody's business. How did this stock, okay, let's ask ourselves a question here. How did this stock go from a $10+ stock to a $2 stock in a matter of like months? Like literally months that happened. From $10+ a share to $2 a share in a matter of months, right? How'd that happen? They were losing a fortune. And I mean a fortune on their bottom line. And it was like if they kept taking those sorts of losses, eventually this business was going to be no more business. They were going to be bankrupt essentially, okay? And so I think it's actually a great decision for them to pull out a lot of that international business that they weren't putting up the numbers. They couldn't see them putting up the numbers anytime soon. Yeah, your revenue takes a hit in 22. And yeah, that sucks, okay? Your revenue is going to go down because you got rid of that business. But what good is it to run those sorts of businesses if there's just going to be money losers for who knows how long into the future, right? And so it makes sense to cut out of that market, get your business closer and closer to profitability, start making some money, some actual money on the bottom line, and then you can focus on international expansion. This company, because of Rona specifically, it just wasn't at that sort of a moment for the company, okay? And so I actually love that they're focusing on the bottom line more than the top line in the short term here. I think that's actually a great move for this particular one because, yeah, if you look at those losses, there was going to be no more SDC, let's just put it that way. No, and I believe they're going to, fix that bottom line. Mask mandates are also going bye-bye, which I think is the biggest thing. The world getting back to normal is the best thing ever for an SDC, right? What does SDC thrive on? It thrives on usually people being self-conscious about their teeth, right? And wanting to have, straight teeth and all those sorts of things. And so SDC benefits from that. There's just no doubt about that. And not everybody cares about, having perfectly straight teeth or something like that. But there's definitely a huge portion of the population that does. And so for those folks, right, you really have only two companies to consider if you're going to get something that's going to make your teeth straight. One is Align. That's the big, huge monster player in the market. And the other is SDC. Those are the two companies you're going to look at if you're considering getting your teeth, let's call it perfectly straight or something like that, right? So at the end of the day, I think SDC is going to be one of those stocks that as long as they get this business kind of going in the right direction, it doesn't take a lot to get SDC to go from 2 to 6 or 2 to 8, over the next year or two. As long as they get that bottom line trending in the right way again, these losses way down, and then in 23, they're expected to have revenue go back up again, 17% revenue growth expected in 23. That's where you can get the stock to flip in a massive way and all of a sudden go from 2 to 6 and 2 to 8 and get a 3x, 4x on the stock price in a pretty quick amount of time. So that's why I'm investing in this one. And it's my most dangerous play, I'll be honest. But also, I can't think of a play I'm in that has the chance to 3x, 4x just over the next 1 to 2 years. It's my only play that I can really think of can do that. I got a lot of stocks that I think are going to go beast mode over the coming years, but I don't have any stocks other than SDC that I think have that 3x, 4x potential just over the next few years, okay? So my sixth biggest investment. My fifth biggest investment in the market is the Planet, which is obviously, another Jack Jackson player. 50% plus revenue growth expected for this company in 2022. They're expected about 10x their EPS expected in 2022 as well. EPS is going to be shaky. When I say shaky, I mean there's going to be a lot of moving parts because they're supposed to have multiple stores open in 22. Also, how much does the OC store ramp over the summer? Basically, when the Vegas store hit its second year in business, there was a huge ramp up that happened in that business. I'm expecting a similar thing to happen in OC. Let's hope that happens. It's possible it doesn't happen and that store doesn't really ramp. But I'm expecting the summer for that OC store to be very busy in Orange County. And, in terms of these stocks, right? In terms of like an Avant, a Planet, and just all the players in the Jack Jackson space, like what's going on here right now? Well, there's not a lot of excitement about federal legalization. Let's just be honest. Let's call it what it is. When that excitement comes back, a lot of these stocks will go beast mode. And, for stocks like Avant, Planet, I'm in those stocks because I believe in their long-term growth, right? But for other folks, they play these a little more as trading plays. And so if there's not a lot of excitement around federal legalization, there's not a lot of excitement in this kind of, these sorts of stocks. And even if they put up great numbers, people are kind of like, let me wait till federal legalization comes, and then those plays will get hot again, right? And so if we think about federal legalization, the way people are thinking about it is they're like, I don't know if that's going to happen under Biden. And then they think about the 2024 election, highly probable that it will be a Biden versus Trump election, okay? And so a lot of people are thinking, well, if it's Biden versus Trump, is Biden going to get the deal done for federal legalization? I don't know. Is Trump going to get it done? People are like, I don't know, right? In my opinion, federal legalization is coming regardless of who's president, okay? My personal opinion on this is I think there's going to be overwhelming pressure to basically have federal legalization come down the pipe. There's just more and more pressure. I was reading a study recently where 91% of Americans are in favor of either medical or recreational use of the product. And for somebody like myself that, even before I was ever invested in these sorts of companies, I was for, federal legalization. I'm like, at the end of the day, if I look at it, I'm like, it's no worse than like drinking. And if drinking's legalized, then legalize this stuff. And so that's the way I personally view it, and I think that's the way most Americans view it. And so I think there's going to be continued pressure on this over time. Recently there was essentially at one of these, facilities or let's call it a shop where they sold this product, there was actually a shooting and a person died. And the reason being is this is a cash heavy industry right now because they haven't even been able, you can't even use like credit cards and whatnot. And a lot of these retail facilities are cut off from the banking system, which is ridiculous, right? And so it's very cash heavy. And if you go to like the Planet locations, they got armed security, man. Like I'm talking about armed security with some weaponry on them. And the reason being is if you're in a cash heavy business like that, folks that maybe want to do something, right, are going to look for those to hit up those sorts of facilities. And that's just ridiculous, right? It's completely unsafe. And so I think there's going to be more and more just pressure from lawmakers to say, dude, let's get federal legalization done. I don't think that's going to magically go away. I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually federal legalization comes. It's just, what year does it come? Does it come in 22, 23, 24? That's kind of everybody's best guess out there. My fourth biggest investment in the market is Corsair Gaming. Slow revenue growth expected from this company in 22, right? And the reason being is that this first quarter, comps are so dang tough to comp against. Second quarter is pretty tough as well. Starting in the back half of the year, the comps start getting very easy. So Corsair has a lame growth year this year, expected 5%. But I kind of like that. The expectations are extremely low for this company. I mean, extremely low. And the forward P is extremely attractive for this company. It's under $2 billion market cap right now. Price to sales ratio is trading about 1 right now. 157, by the way, the forward price to sales ratio is actually under 1 for this company right now. They're supposed to do about $1.57 of EPS. That's up from $1.45 this past year. 2023, they're expected to get back to double-digit revenue growth, which this company on a normal growth rate should grow double digits revenue year after year after year between their Elgato brands and their Corsair brands as well, which I fully expect. They're also supposed to get in the small cap 600, which that inclusion is going to be huge, and I see them getting a lot more like ETFs or funds over the coming years as well, as more and more people find out about this stock, right? So companies run on a phenomenal level. Management team, I love owning it. It's not the most exciting stock in the world, right? But it's also just a company that I expect to grow year after year after year. And this is one of those companies that I can see their stock price just continue to increase year after year after year. The bad news for Corsair is already behind this company now. And it just kind of gets brighter and brighter from here. Never mind if you tack on a big game coming that is, let's say a game-changing game in this industry that revitalizes the growth. All of a sudden, Corsair can go from, they're growing like 5% to like 20%, 30% overnight. That's how fast it happens. There's really been nothing super exciting launched recently for games. That is going to end, right? We know it's just a matter of time before the next big game comes out and everybody's excited again. So yeah, Corsair Gaming, I really like this one in a good capital position as well. Corsair Gaming, number 4 biggest investment. My number 3 biggest investment in the stock market is Tesla, right? So 54% revenue growth expected for this company in 2022, which is insane, just insane. 1049 EPS expected from 678. So, massive increase in revenue expected, massive increase in EPS expected. that EPS number should be crazy. I don't know. I don't want to make a prediction on what could happen there, but there's some analysts that had them doing over $12 of EPS in 2022. All right. Now, the most interesting thing about Tesla is growth rates from analysts are only supposed to be 25% for 2023. No, for Tesla, that would be extremely lame growth. And 2023, for me, I think that's going to be a year that's very driven, no pun intended, from the Cybertruck. I think that's what's going to really dictate how fast Tesla grows in 2023, in my opinion. And so this is interesting because Tesla's been putting up these insane growth rates. Analysts only have them growing 25% in 2023. And so the big question is going to become, is that all that Tesla's going to put up in 2023, like 25%? Or could they come in at a 30% number, 40% number? So as the year transpires and as we go along, if analysts start bringing up those numbers, then ultimately analysts will have to start upgrading the stock more and more. And hey, yeah, we thought they were only going to grow 25%, but actually we think they're going to grow 30% this year. 40% in 23, that is, in 2023. And so I think that's a big kind of thing for the stock price. So I actually like that the expectations are kind of low for 23. Because like I said, 25% revenue growth for Tesla is kind of usually kind of lame, let's call it that, all right? So yeah, Tesla has a lot going for it. Obviously, new Gigafactory in Europe just opened up. They have another, expansion for the Shanghai Gigafactory. Fremont's producing more vehicles than anybody, even us Tesla bulls, than we ever thought was possible. And so, that's just kind of one of those things where it's maybe Europe, they could produce more from the European Gigafactory over time. Maybe Shanghai is going to produce more than ever expected. So Tesla's in a sweet spot. The next year should be phenomenal for Tesla. The big question is going to be that 23. And do they only grow at 25% or do they grow at a much faster clip than that? All right. My number 2 biggest investment in the market is Honest, HNST. 13% revenue growth expected for this company in 2022. If you don't know, Honest, they sell diapers, baby wipes, beauty products like makeup products, soaps, shampoos, all those sorts of things. And they got a beautiful brand name, and they got also a beautiful woman that started this company a long time ago named Jessica Alba, if you'd ever heard of her. 13% revenue growth expected in 22. Very small loss expected for this company in 22, and I mean very small loss. Market share stealer. They're stealing market share from all the big guys, the Procter & Gamble's, the Kimberly-Clark's, big competitors. And they resonate with the millennial generation, I think, better, which than all the other big brands, which is huge. Because guess who's having all the babies nowadays? It's the millennials. It's not the baby boomer generation anymore. The baby boomer generation, companies like Procter & Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, they understood that, right? They understood how to sell to that generation. I remember being a little kid, right? And, my mom would watch soap operas. And, as a little 4-year-old, 5-year-old being home with my mom, and she'd watch these soap operas. And Procter & Gamble would advertise all over these soap operas. And they understood how to sell to that baby boomer generation. But a company like Honest, it's a whole different game now. If you just want to run ads on soap operas, that used to work back in the 80s and 90s. That doesn't work today. You have to advertise differently. You have to market your products differently to the newer generation that's having the babies now. And so, that's the core business for Honest. So they understand this on a higher level than any of the other companies. The other great thing about them is they have a management team in place that is ready to take this company to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, in my opinion. They have that type of leadership experience, but they understand the marketing on a better level than all the other big guys. And that's why they're stealing market share right now. And I think they're going to continue to steal market share, right? Right now, the market cap is a joke. It's like a $500 million market cap, and it's at like a 1.76 price to sales ratio, which is just laughable, literally just laughable. This company should be, at least a $10 or $15 stock today, okay? Never mind, I think this is going back to $20 to $30 over the coming years. Its stock price trading in the 5s and 6s recently it's a joke. It's simply a joke. That's why I've been buying the stock so dang heavily. The fact is, Honest has only been a stock I've been buying for a few months, literally just months. It's not like this is a stock I've been acquiring for a year, 2 years, something like that. It's a matter of months. I built this into my second biggest position. So there's no stock I hold that has a more attractive risk reward in the stock market than Honest, okay? None. Including my number 1 position that we're about to get into here, but there's no stock I hold that has a more attractive risk reward that makes me sleep well at night, that I'm the downside's very limited in this stock and the upside's insane over the coming years. So Honest, could it become my number one position over time? It's a possibility. It's a real possibility. I love that stock, and I think it's going to thrive over the next 3 to 5 years. Let's put it that way, okay? Alrighty, last one up here. I think you guys know this one. All right, Tattoo Chef, TDCF. It is my number one biggest position. So let's start out here. All right, 2021 for Tattoo Chef was kind of like, if you didn't keep track of Tesla back in the day, it reminds me of the second half of 2018 into the first half of 2019 for Tesla. Tesla went through this very, very tough time period where their numbers started getting really, really shaky. I remember I think it was their first quarter of 2019. Numbers are horrible, they reported. They reported this quarter where on a sequential basis, revenue was down billions of dollars. Not like a small amount, like billions of dollars. And it became the consensus around Tesla. Like, people started saying, like, oh, Tesla's growth days are done. And I know that's ridiculous to think about now, but that's what people were saying. Like, Tesla's growth days are done because they were having trouble ramping their vehicles. There was talk of no demand for Tesla. And, like, Tesla's best days were behind it, essentially, right? And a lot of people got caught up into that and forgot all the long-term stuff that was going for Tesla and just got caught up into that short-term kind of bad numbers. And in my opinion, kind of this, Tesla's 2Q through 4Q for 2021, there was kind of that time period where the numbers, they missed some numbers. They missed an earnings report date, right? Like they had to postpone it last minute. And so it's just like kind of a bunch of rough stuff happened all in a 9-month span. And it drove a lot of people out of their stock. And a lot of people got caught up into the short term with Tattoo Chef and totally forgot about the long term, what's going on for this company, the vegan movement and the plant-based food movement. And they just have thrown all that out in the brand and everything that's happening there. And they've forgotten about all that. And they left the company, right? But in my opinion, there's going to be a whole lot of those folks come back to the stock over the next year or two. Let's put it that way. 33% revenue growth expected for this company in 2022. So a strong growth year expected. I expect, let's call it I expect anywhere between 30% on the low end revenue growth, like worst case scenario, 30%. But I wouldn't be surprised if they report closer to a 40% growth expected in 22. They have SKU expansion, new product expansion, velocity expansion, and store expansion all happening simultaneously for this company in 22 and in future years as well. Innovation, I've never seen a company in the food space innovate as fast as this company is. And they have bottom line levers everywhere. So the talk has been, their margins are bad, their profitability, there's no profitability. There's bottom line levers everywhere that they're going to pull. And just like Tesla had all these bottom line levers to pull when they were ramping and people didn't see it, that's the same exact thing that's happening with Tattoo Chef right now, where all of a sudden these margins are going to increase rapidly over the next couple of years, and people are going to be like, whoa, Tattoo Chef, look at these margins. Look at what their margins used to be and what they are now. That's exactly what's going to happen here. They will get profitable on the bottom line over the coming years, and then they'll get extremely profitable, and people will be like, whoa, this is a growth engine plus profitability plus a margin story. And that's when the money will really start flowing in the stock. Hope you guys enjoyed this. As always, don't forget to check out my checklist. Check out pinned comment for that. Make sure you subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this. Much love and have a great day.